Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel, Untitled. Sorry, I've been not uploading regularly like I used to. Well, been kinda busy with my day job lately, and I am trying to make some light moody types of videos as well. As you see, when I listen to crime cases, I kinda enjoy listening to this weird and craziness of humanity and how much of a difference people could be. But when I actually doing research and read a lot of materials about crime cases, I can't help but somewhat feeling relatable in some sorts. Then it gradually became a torment for me to bear with the cruelties from the violent cases I've learned. Like this case I'm about to chat about, the Hello Kitty murder case. It was a hit when this case broke off, as normal people wouldn't want to associate cute little kitty like this to a bloody, brutal murder case of torturing and murdering a young lady. Yeah, with that being said, I'm going to bring up some sensitive topics about sexual violence, excessive drug use, manipulation, and all the bad and vicious intentions some human-looking monsters could have forcibly set upon another human being. So without further ado, let's kickstart today's story, shall we? The person who uncovered this cruel and brutal case was a little girl. She was only about 13 years old at the time. Hence, her real names were kept from the public. I think I can call her Alice for the storytelling. Alice was not a lucky girl, for some unclear, but I can imagine wouldn't be happy reasons. She left her family and often lingered around to the street. And you can also imagine a girl in her 13, vulnerable and confused. Plus, when she wasn't lucky enough, she would definitely encounter some wrong people and hang out with the wrong crowds. That's how she ended up dating a guy 6 years older than her. Wai-lun, a 21-year-old minion of a gang master, Chen Wenle. And the latter one, Chen Wenle, he was 33, and his main gigs were doing drug dealings and loan sharking. It was February 1999 when Chen Wenle invited this young couple to live in the room of an apartment in the building on the 31st of Granville Road. Alice by the time thought she finally found someone she could rely to. Her boyfriend was indeed something in this gang or whatever, otherwise how on earth his boss would offer them a place to live. Housing in Hong Kong was always very expensive, especially for teenagers like her. Right, she thought it was all innocent, like she was also taken into their group and she couldn't be bullied or scared by anyone outside of this gang. Little did she know that she was pushed deeper into a monster's nest. This particular building on the 31st of Granville Road was like for renting only. People who lived in that place at the time were not always good and innocent Samaritans. These tenants were highly transient, and many idle individuals often gathered there. Naturally, these people didn't care about each other's lives. So gradually, this place had become a haven for drug use and an ideal hideout for various crimes. Alice moved in with her boyfriend to this building in February, right? 3 months later, on the 24th of May, she couldn't help but cry out to a social worker that something terrible had happened. And of course, because the case or story Alice had told was extremely heinous, the social worker reported it to the police immediately. So on the 26th of May 1999, the police finally brought Alice to the 3rd floor in the 31st of Granville Road. Alice broke into tears and refused to enter the apartment down to the hall. She was standing on the staircase and pointed to the darkness ahead of them. She felt so scared and regret, sad, all the negative emotions overwhelmed her. Pinned to the floor, she could not move, not even with a step further closer to that particular apartment. The police discovered a Hello Kitty mermaid toy in the corridor corner. It's all dirty and muddy with a terrible stink. And if you look closer, like in this photo, I zoom out for you. You can see these suspicious red stains on it. On the 27th of May, one day after they discovered the toy, the police arrested Chen Wenle and his wife. On the 28th, Liang Shengzu turned himself in, and I know I have introduced these guys, yet please be patient, and everything will be described in details in the next chapter. Liang Wenlun ran off to mainland China as soon as he saw the news about this discovery of Hello Kitty toy murder case on newspaper. A year later, Liang Wenlun got caught by the police in mainland China because of drug using. And because he does not have a mainland China identity card, the police had to check everything about him, right? He was quickly exposed as a fugitive from Hong Kong. Then he was handed over to the Hong Kong police in February 2000. On the 9th of October 2000, the case finally went to trial in the Hong Kong High Court. In the courtroom, the prosecution and defense argued back and forth. Witnesses took turns identifying, and the chilling details of the events were revealed one by one. So what's going on? Man-yee was born in 1976 in Shing-cho, but she was brought to Hong Kong as a toddler, I think, as she was raised in an all-girls orphanage in Hong Kong, and they took her in because she was abandoned by her birth family. To be honest, I can't imagine a life growing up in an orphanage, but I bet it was terrible and difficult. She was addicted to drugs as a teenager when she was forced to leave the orphanage. They told her there was this age restriction in the orphanage and she could only stay there until the age of 15. But how could a 15-year-old girl to survive without a roof to her head? I have no idea, especially it was back in the years. I bet there weren't many places she could work to support herself as a teenager. Plus, she was using drugs. She needed money, a lot of them. So it's sad and somewhat predictably that a girl in her situation would largely likely ended up working in the sex industry. Man-yee worked at a brothel at the age of 21 when she married her husband in 1996. This husband was one of the clients anyway, also heavily addicted to drugs. But magically, she fell pregnant and gave birth to her son in the year of 1998. Turning into motherhood was a life-changing thing for Man-yee. It could be that the baby's tiny face melted so much and she decided that she would not continue her messy old life. She wanted to be better, to be a mom that her baby would not feel ashamed of when he grew older. She quit drugs and prostitution, but she didn't have other life skills for her to change careers so fast. She still had to work as a hostess at a nightclub, though she felt it was a temporary thing. You know, when she gathered enough resource or knowledge, she would eventually get herself some normal, proper job. And her husband, like I said, was an addict. In the meantime, he was super violent as well. When Man-yee determined to flip her life, she ditched and left her husband with her son. As you can imagine, it was a brave and smart decision, though it takes time to work. Leaving abusive husband is good, not being a prostitution is good. But this also means that her financial income would have a sharp drop. And I bet the social care back in the years wasn't so good for single moms like her. Man-yee had to survive with a toddler when worked with low income. Right, I feel suffocated already just by imagining if I were to, whatever reason, fall in such situation. Anyway, because of extremely lack of money, Man-yee stole from a wrong person. So she stole Chen Wenle's wallet, which was about 4,000 Hong Kong dollars, equivalent to about 500 US dollars at the time. Chen Wenle knew her since she was working in that brothel where she met her husband, so he was like an acquaintance to her. Chen Wenle was no fool when he realized his wallet was gone. It didn't take long for him to figure out it was Man-yee who stole from him. This made him furious, and he demanded the return of money in addition to a fee of 10,000 Hong Kong dollars. Remember when I mentioned Chen Wenle in our first chapter, I did say he was having this business of loan sharking. Man-yee knew that this guy was not an easy one, so she returned this 5,000 Hong Kong dollar he stole immediately, though she couldn't fetch the other 5,000 easily to match up this additional fee he asked for. As we all know, it's very hard for her to earn money now that she quit doing sex work. But Chen Wenle didn't care. When he did not receive this additional fee from her after the deadline he set, he took a fuss at her. And this is no regular anger I am talking about. Chen Wenle told his minions to kidnap her and brought her to this apartment on the 31st of Granville Road. Initially, they wanted to pimp her out to make up this additional fee Chen Wenle wanted from her. But things went terribly wrong. Remember this stuffed toy the police found in the corner of the corridor? Its stuffed content was cotton and a human head. Yeah, you can imagine the shock when the forensics carefully opened it and discovered a boiled and cooked, screwed head. It wasn't even a complete skull. Its jaw was nowhere to be found, and there were very few teeth left in the upper jaw. Broken pieces of bone fragments and even teeth, along with some hairs, were also found within this mermaid Hello Kitty toy. Right, the doll was complete when the police found it, which I meant whoever stuffed the broken head into this even thought about sewing up afterwards. That's way too creepy, and now I'm gonna describe the crime scene from various sources and court statements and stuff. This plot would cover how unhumane the culprits were when they abducted Man-yee and locked it up in that shitty tiny room in that fucking apartment. So please, if you are not ready to hear something this brutal, jump to the next chapter for how the perpetrators were punished. They brought her to this messy, disgusting room of a flat. She was brutally beaten. Every part of her body ached. And she was in so much pain that she couldn't straighten up, rolling on the floor in agony. But would they go easy on her? She was a woman, a mother of a 2-year-old. Nope, they didn't have such mercy. This guy, Wai-lun, was only 19 years old and he acted like a maniac. It was said that this 19-year-old guy kicked her consistently for 50 times, if not more, using foul language on her. Well, he's pretty much an uneducated kid who knew nothing about dignity, so you can imagine what he could be like. But there were other two guys, Chen Wenle and Liang Shengzu. It could be that the physical beating became boring for them. Whether it's using bare hands or feet to beat her, it's just be waving a fist or kicking, right? It's kinda mechanic. Well, I'm asking, as we, normal people, even we are so angry, so wanted to hurt the person or people we hated at the max level of rage, the heated face would eventually slip past, right? We, or at least me, would not have the urge or consistency to hurt anyone else like that. Especially if the other person was just only me 5,000 Hong Kong dollars. It could be something when converted to present days, But at the end of the day, I just wanted the money. I didn't want to hurt anyone. However, that's not the case with Chen Wenle. The purpose of torturing Fan Mingyi was not to get money back from her, but to play with her cruelly. So their behaviors escalated. It wasn't just normal beating. They sealed windows of that room where they blocked Fan Mingyi with wood panels. They made sure no one could peek through the windows. What they did to her next is just plain evil. They poured hot oil into her mouth. You know how hot oil burns tend to be more severe and penetrate deeper into the skin, whereas boiling water burns are often less severe. They did that to her mouth, not even to just bare skin we have on, say, arms. I can even imagine the pain. And they obviously enjoyed the torture, the painful look. The screams from Fan Mingyi were like fuel to a flame. She's all wounded, right? Through beatings and even the hot oil pouring. They would apply hot chili oil to her wounds. You know, when a wound comes into contact with chili oil, it causes a sharp, intense burning sensation. As the capsaicin in the chili oil activates pain receptors, leading to redness, inflammation, and prolonged discomfort, which means it's really irritated and uncomfortable, unbearable. Then they forced her to drink urine and eat stools. Sorry, this is very, very gross. But imagine the poor lady who got no choice but to obey. If she didn't do what they asked or forced, they'd beat her with metal pipes. She could not resist. What's more, they would nail the plastic straws and watch the liquid fall and burn her thighs. Then they commanded her to laugh. Yeah, you heard me right. Instead of crying, now they wanted to see her smile and laugh. But in this very cruel way, Fan Mingyi lost her sanity through the torments she suffered. So she'd pick her own wounds. These three bastards said that they had to tie her hands up with electric wires and smashed her hands with a metal bucket, so she would not hurt herself. You know what? When she was locked up, she wasn't completely locked. With that being said, she could have chance to slip away when the perpetrators went around. Because they often left her there alone, or even brought her out once or twice when they were out for shopping. Fan Mingyi already lost hope. After all, she tried selling herself to pay off debts, but the more she paid, the more she owned. She struggled to avoid Chen Wenle's harassment, only to be caught, imprisoned, and abused. I didn't even know where the police were when this whole thing happened. Plus, Chen Wenle knew where she lived and could use her toddler son to threaten her at any time. What else could she do? Perhaps she still clung to the hope that Chen Wenle would eventually let her go after all this abuse, allowing her to return to her old path of selling herself to pay off more debts coming from God knows where, but it's definitely gonna accumulate it. Most of the time, Fan Mingyi slept on the floor, and at one point, she was even locked in a closet. It was like a never-ending nightmare, and so cruel to a point that everything was surreal and hard to believe. These inhumane tortures lasted a whole fucking month, until one day, Fan Mingyi could have been, I don't know how she did it, but she regained some conscience. Everything was just too painful to be bearable. Then Fan Mingyi somehow discovered some heroin, and she took it immediately. That's Chen Wenle's guilty, right? He wanted to either sell it or use it himself. How dare this slave steal from him? Chen Wenle and Wai-lun beat the shit out of her, literally. She passed out right away. And that cut off the fun they had with her, right? They wanted to see her reaction, not just her lying there like a body. Maybe they felt bored or whatever. Chen Wenle and his crew left her unconsciously lying in that room and headed to a dance club to seek some fun. When they finally returned to this apartment, remember Alice? She came with them where Fan Mingyi was hiding. Alice worried that she might be dead as she lay there with her limbs twisting and she weakly moaned from time to time. But all of a sudden, she stopped moving, like completely stopped. Liang Wai-lun, her boyfriend, told her not to worry. The woman was an addict, lying there on the floor was merely having this drug withdrawal symptoms. AKA, she was fine, and she wouldn't die there. And then Chen Wenle ignited a lighter and he put the flame to burn Liang Mingyi's food and she shrinked away immediately, as to show Alice that she was not dead. So then Chen Wenle told Alice and her boyfriend to place Fan Mingyi against the wall, but she couldn't sit. As long as they let go of her, she slipped and fell down to the floor. Chen Wenle told them to just let her be there, like that, like never mind. They could just live and do whatever they wanted. Therefore, no one was around there to supervise Fan Mingyi. On the following day, Liang Wai-lun told Alice to check out for Fan Mingyi. Alice couldn't find a breath out of her, and she couldn't even find a heartbeat from her either. And Fan Mingyi's whole body was actually solidly stiff. She could not be more dead than that. Alice's boyfriend at the time, Liang Wai-lun, then notified Chen Wenle, and he even complained to his girlfriend that a dead woman was just way too tedious, and he hated the house sales and wanted her to be gone, like into pieces, so this trouble could be flushed down to the toilet. It was a few days since Fan Mingyi died. Her body emitted these unpleasant smells and started to rot. Chen Wenle brought back a fridge and put her body inside. But since it started rotting already, I imagine even a fridge could not keep it from rotting away. It only slows it down a bit, the process, right? So what could they do to get rid of the body? Yeah, to dismember her. They brought her to a tub, opened her, right there, broke the bones, and there were organs within, right? It's pretty much like preparing a fish for food. You cut open the belly and pull out what's inside and bag them with plastic bags. Liang Shing-cho was the one who took the role of opening the belly, but he puked as soon as he saw how the organs slipped out from the inside. The 19-year-old was vomiting all the way from the beginning of the dismembering to the end, so he did not get to touch the body at all. It was Chen Wenle who took over the dismembering and clearing off the scattered pieces. They brought a pot to the bathroom and started to boil the organs and meat they took out from Fan Mingyi. But it was way too much meat they could take out from a human body, a lot more than they had expected. So even the disposals of human remains were tiring. They initially transported the bags of remains to the trash hold, where the rubbish served so much massive even, and no one cared. But when they were tired of it, they just left the bags here and there around the building where it all happened. And for some unknown reason, Chen Wenle brought the head to his own apartment and boiled and cooked it in his own place. Right, removed the cooked meat and stuffed the skull within that mermaid Hello Kitty doll and sew it all the way up. You know how he had to unsew it first and took out the cotton before the skull could fit in. Chen Wenle really took his time and enjoying this process. When Fan Mingyi was dead and they were managing her body, there was this neighbor who thought he had witnessed something. He was watching this silhouette of a person kept chopping or cutting something from his place. And he even filmed it. But unfortunately, he didn't think it was important, and this videotape got rewritten within his recording device. And this particular flat where the perpetrator's present Man-yee kept having these gross smells emitting, right? The neighbors could not bear its increasingly bad smell. They called the police. You know what? The police found nothing. And they thought the bad smell was just coming from rotten rubbish. So they ignored the following reports of bad smells coming from there, with the body got butchered and ditched. And the police was not responding anymore for these bad smells. This case could potentially be a perfect crime. Fortunately, like I told you in the beginning, Alice couldn't bear the guilt and she unveiled it for the authority. She was there when Man-yee was tortured. She was even one of them. On the 9th of October 2000, the case finally went to trial in the High Court of Hong Kong. In the courtroom, the prosecution and defense clashed with words. Witnesses took turns to testify, and the terrifying plot unfolded bit by bit in their narratives. How the woman was kidnapped, held captive, abused, swollen, and past-filled to death, and dismembered, cooked, and dumped, and how the defendants removed the skin and flesh from her head and stuffed her skull into a doll. The jurors were drenching in sweat, unable to hide their gasps of horror. The inhumane plot was nauseating just to imagine. Yet the three defendants in the dock showed no reaction to their crimes, sometimes even having a smirk expressions on their faces. However, despite the outrage, the court was missing a crucial piece of evidence that prevented them from convincing the defendants of murder. The court needed to establish the presence of a victim, the victim's identity, cause of death, and the alleged murderers before proving it was a clear-cut case of murder, and then imposing heavy sentence on the defendants. All of this hinged on the body, but Man-yee's body, except for a skull, had completely vanished. The flesh on the skull was severely damaged, making DNA collection was impossible, and verifying her identity was very, very difficult. In the eyes of the law, Man-yee's identity and the circumstances of her death could only be proven through the testimony of tainted witness Alice. Additionally, because the defendants admitted to illegally disposing of the body, they were convicted of manslaughter in Man-yee's case. The jury ultimately ruled 6-1 against the three, finding them not guilty of murder but guilty of manslaughter. The judge handed down the maximum sentence for manslaughter, sentencing all three to life imprisonment. However, Liang Shengzu appealed, and his appeal was actually success. Due to his relatively lesser involvement in the case and his voluntarily surrender, resulting in his sentence being reduced to 18 years in prison only. In April 2014, Liang Shengzu was released from prison after serving his term. Well, he did not change, as he got jailed again in December 2021. He molested a young child of the age 10, and he was sentenced to be in prison for 12 months for child molestation. I am sorry, but this is one of cases where I think death penalty should be applied. Anyway, thanks for watching. This is the end of today's case. Like and subscribe, so I will see you in my next video. Bye.